In the grand theater of modern finance, money is no longer gold in a vault. It is a signal, a pulse of light traveling through fiber optic cables, bouncing off satellites, and vanishing into the cloud. For nearly 2 decades, the German fintech giant Wirecard was the master of this invisible realm. It was a technological miracle, a company worth billions, the darling of the DAX index that promised to process payments for a cashless future. But inside the glass towers of Munich, buried beneath the algorithms and the quarterly reports, there was a ghost in the machine. His name is Jan Marsalek. To the public, he was a tech visionary, the chief operating officer who slept 3 hours a night, lived on airplanes, and wore the finest suits. But to the intelligence agencies now hunting him across the globe, he was something far more dangerous. Marsalek wasn't just processing credit cards, he was processing secrets. He was a man who routed his company's entire internet traffic through his own personal computer to spy on his colleagues. A man who treated international espionage like a corporate merger and corporate fraud like a covert operation. This isn't just a story about missing money. The 1.9 billion euros that vanished from Wirecard's accounts was merely the entry fee. The price of admission into a shadow world of nerve agents, private armies, and a secret war waged from the boardrooms of London to the deserts of Libya. Today, we decode the Marsalek Enigma. We retrace the steps of the tech executive who became a Russian spy master. From the honey traps on the French Riviera to the classified chemical weapon documents passed around a dinner table in Mayfair. This is the story of how the financial elite were played, and how one man turned a bank into a weapon of the state. To understand the fall, we must understand the ascent. Jan Marsalek was obsessed with the aesthetics of power. He kept a hammer under his bed in Munich and hired former intelligence officers to guard his secrets. He lived a life of performative power, jet-setting between Munich and Singapore, always moving, always watching. But the pivotal moment of his transformation didn't happen in a boardroom. It happened on the Mediterranean. The date was July 6th, 2014. The location, the port of Nice. Marsalek arrived at the marina, expecting the luxury befitting a master of the universe. Instead, he found a woman waiting on the aft deck of a dingy, peeling cutter named the Poseidon III. The woman was Natalia Zlobina. To the outside world, she was a polished advertising executive, a fixer for Wirecard's expansion into Russia. But intelligence files paint a different picture. A former erotic model turned state asset. Zlobina was the architect of what experts call a honey network. Surveillance footage captures the scene. Marsalek steps onto the rotting deck of the fishing cutter, visibly annoyed. A man of his stature? On this wreck? It was a test, a psychological game designed to break his ego before rebuilding it. Zlobina laughs. She kisses him. She points across the water. That, she signals, is the joke. Waiting one slip over is the real venue, a gleaming mega yacht. On board, men are laughing, drinking, waiting. This was the Zlobina Gambit. The Poseidon III was theater. That night, amidst the champagne and the sea breeze, Zlobina delivered Marsalek into the hands of the GRU. She introduced him to Stanislav Petlinsky, a former Spetsnaz officer known simply as Stas the General. From that night forward, Marsalek was no longer just a COO. He was an asset. The term honeypot conjures images of Cold War seduction. But this was an evolution of the tactic. Zlobina became the gatekeeper to a world Marsalek desperately craved, a world of danger, classified intelligence, and paramilitary thrills. They traveled together to conflict zones. In 2017, they flew to Palmyra, Syria, shortly after the city had been retaken by Russian forces and Wagner mercenaries. Picture the absurdity. A European fintech executive walking through the ruins of an ancient city, guided by Russian special forces. This was not business. This was war tourism. But the most brazen display of his double life occurred in the heart of London, in a moment that defines his reckless narcissism. London, 2018. The city is on edge. A former Russian spy, Sergei Skripal, and his daughter have been poisoned in Salisbury with a military-grade nerve agent known as Novichok. The world is demanding answers. The British government is hunting the assassins. And in a private dining room in Mayfair, Jan Marsalek is holding court. He is dining with financial traders, men who are betting against Wirecard, shorting the stock. Marsalek needs to intimidate them. He needs to show them he is untouchable. So, he reaches into his bag and pulls out a dossier. These are not quarterly earnings reports. They are classified documents from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. They contain the detailed analysis of the Salisbury attack, including the precise chemical formula for Novichok. He slides the papers across the table. When asked where he got them, he simply smiles and says, "Friends." Let that sink in. The COO of a DAX-listed company is flaunting the recipe for a weapon of mass destruction to impress hedge fund managers. It was a power play fueled by hubris. A desperate attempt to prove that he was not just a money man, but a player in the great game. While he was dining in London, his operations in North Africa were heating up. Marsalek had turned his gaze toward Libya. The official story was cement. Marsalek claimed to be investing in the Libyan cement company, a venture to rebuild the war-torn nation. He hired experts, commissioned studies. But when an Austrian consultant presented a humanitarian plan to rebuild homes and hospitals, Marsalek dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Childish, he called it. He didn't want to build houses. He wanted to move soldiers. The cement factory project became a Trojan horse. Under the guise of security for the plant, the plan was to facilitate the entry of Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group into the region. Wirecard's complex network of offshore accounts and shell companies was the perfect vehicle to finance these operations. Money moved from Munich to Dubai to Tripoli, invisible to regulators, but highly visible to the Kremlin. Marsalek was no longer just financing the operation. He was part of the logistics chain. He was equipping a private army with the same efficiency he used to process credit card payments for online gambling sites. One evening, while discussing the militia project, he made a chilling joke about the body cameras his soldiers would wear. He laughed and said, "The cameras are great, but we can't use the footage because our guys don't take prisoners. They shoot them all." That laughter is the purest form of the lack of empathy. June 2020. The House of Cards collapses. Auditors refuse to sign off on Wirecard's accounts. 1.9 billion euros are missing from trust accounts in the Philippines. The stock price crashes. The CEO is arrested. But Marsalek? Marsalek is already gone. He tells colleagues he is going to the Philippines to chase the money. He books a flight to Manila. He even has immigration records forged to show he arrived there. It's a digital decoy, a ghost flight. In reality, he boards a private jet in Bad Vöslau, Austria, a Cessna Citation Mustang. He pays the pilots in cash. He lands in Belarus. From there, a car takes him across the border, into the embrace of the Russian Federation. The asset has come home. For months, the world wondered, where is Jan Marsalek? Interpol issued red notices. Bounty hunters scoured the globe. But Marsalek wasn't hiding in a cave. He was living in one of the most exclusive addresses in Russia, Myendorf Gardens. This is the Beverly Hills of Moscow, a high-security enclave near the presidential residence. Here, behind high walls and armed guards, Marsalek began his second life. He was given a new identity: Konstantin Byazov, an Orthodox priest. Western intelligence believes he is still active, directing spy rings in London, tracking journalists, and serving his masters. The story of Jan Marsalek is a warning. It exposes the fragility of our financial systems. We trusted Wirecard because the numbers on the screen said we should. We trusted the suits, the audits, the banks. But beneath the surface, the infrastructure of global finance was being hollowed out and repurposed for hybrid warfare. Marsalek showed us that in the 21st century, you don't need to break into the bank to steal the secrets. You just need to run the bank. Today, somewhere in the quiet, snow-covered avenues of Myendorf Gardens, Jan Marsalek is likely sitting at a computer. He is safe, he is protected, and he is watching. The money is gone. But the cost is far higher. Wirecard was not a fraud. It was an operation, and it succeeded. This is Gray Sector Archives. Don't just watch the story. Understand the mechanism. Subscribe.